that's about how to get your offer on a bank-owned property accepted. And I broke it down into basically three parts: showings, preparing your buyer, and making an offer. So showings do not have a, oh, there's Bobby. Do not let your investor tell you, oh, I'll just drive by the house and make an offer. It just causes problems later, because that investor, after he makes an offer and gets it accepted, the first thing he's going to ask you is to get into the house. Hi, Bobby. How are you?
Good. How are you?
You understand that there's a lot of competition on these properties. And when the bank accepts something, they expect to move like lightning. And anything that you're going to do that's going to get in way of the time between the accepted offer and the signed contract does not make any sense at all. So do not put in an offer from an investor who says, oh, I'll just drive by and give you a number. It just causes problems. Now, there are drive-by onlys, houses that the banks are selling with occupied people in there. Obviously, all you can do is drive by, and you cannot knock on the door. To me, those are the best properties for an investor that's looking for some profit, because you're adding a little risk, but getting a much bigger reward. These things are going, a lot of them, way below the list price.
Probably have less competition of buyers.
Yeah, I mean,
not many people are going to go with
exactly.
the occupied.
No, exactly. But
that's not the faint of heart.
If you have confidence in an eviction lawyer, it can work out very well, because a normal REO with 30 offers on it and somebody bidding 75 over asking, there's no profit in there for any investor. So don't do it. Okay, in terms of access for ones that we can access, please do double check with the front desk for access. TPL might say it's on access, it has access, the Stratus might say it's on access, but every day somebody steals a key. Every day somebody breaks a lock. And then you're there with your client and you can't get in. Linda is the person to talk to. If she's not around, I'll do the best I can, but she knows each property intimately because she's dealing with the road guys all the time, and she will know if a key is missing or somebody broke a lock. So don't presume that you can get in. Double check on every one of these REOs. Okay, hold harmless properties. Rosetta, how are you? Have a seat, thanks. Hold harmless properties, obviously you want your buyer to sign that hold harmless. You'd rather not take responsibility yourself. If you have an assignment on an REO and it has a hold harmless and you're going to do a bunch of showings, bring a bunch of hold harmless. Every person that walks in that door has to sign an agency disclosure and a hold harmless before you let them in. It's very important. Okay, preparing your buyer. This is probably the most important part of what I'm going to say today, because most agents and many buyers do not understand the REO product. So you have to start explaining right from the beginning to your buyer, this is not a regular owner. This is a corporation that owns the house and is selling it on their terms, not your terms. And if you don't like their terms, you shouldn't even look at the house. Changes to offers are deadly. The only change you can get away with is raising the offering price. All other changes should never, ever be considered. Paperwork must be complete. Every piece of paperwork filled out. Your sales agreement with the lawyer's name. I can't tell you how many things get delayed. Somebody gets an accepted offer, and the offers department says, send us the lawyer information, and it's 2 days later, and the buyer's deciding what lawyer they're going to get. You shouldn't be doing that with a traditional sale. You should have the lawyer set. The lawyer information should be on the sales agreement. That just expedites the whole thing. You get an accepted offer, the contracts go out next day. And now you have more time to make sure that everything goes well. So the paperwork includes the sales agreement, agency disclosure, lead paint, and proof of funds for down payment, and also the pre-approval from the bank. And please make sure it's at least a pre-approval, not a pre-qual. That's also completely useless. Most of these properties should be cash or reno loan. Reno loans are great, except they take more preparation from you and your buyer. You really shouldn't be making an offer of a reno loan without a contractor for that buyer already bid in that property. Because what happens is somebody goes in, they go in with you, they say, oh, I'll probably have to spend $50,000. And they make their offer. And then the offer gets accepted, and the contractor comes in and says, 50. You're lucky if you get away with 90. What does that person do? They go to the bank, they say, oh, it's too much work. I need to reduce the price. You know what the bank says? Bye-bye. So do your due diligence before you place your offer, especially when you're using a rental loan. But for cash buyers, it's the same way. One of the things that's very interesting is the people who use hard money. So they have a hard money guy. That hard money guy never sees the house. The buyer, investor, goes, sees the house, makes their offer, gets it accepted. Now the hard money guy wants to see the house. Yeah. And that's also very deadly, because that guy's got nothing if the hard money guy doesn't want to give him the money on the house. So as much as possible, you want to dot those I's and cross those T's beforehand. Okay. A lot of these properties are bought in corporate names. It is very important to have the proper paperwork that is submitted with the offer. You have to have corporate documents, and the corporate documents have to show who is authorized to make an offer in the name of the corporation. If you don't know what those look like, ask me. I'll be happy to send you copies of what they look like. But most investors know what they need to do. Eventually down the line, they're forced to give these documents. The other thing that's very important, and this happens a lot, if you're making the offer in the name of a corporation, the money has to be in the corporate account. If you're making in the name of a person, the money has to be in the personal account. A father wants to give a son a down payment for the house. The son is making the offer and has the pre-approval, but the money for the down payment is in the father's account. No. It's not going to work. The bank wants to see the same name all the way across the line. Okay? Most offers are rejected not because they're not high enough, but because they're not good enough.
Question on that?
Sure.
Is there a seasoning time, like a week back? Because sometimes what they do is they just transfer the money.
Yeah, not for the down payment. If it's an all cash offer, yes, there is a seasoning thing. What they're going to be looking at the average daily balance, and if that changes a lot, one of the things you understand is that everything is relative. Okay? If you have a cash offer and the money's not exactly seasoned, but the next offer is a 203K, your cash offer is probably going to get acceptance even though it looks sketchy. But if you have 3 cash offers on the table and one guy's got $1 million, had that as his balance all the time, and somebody's got 350, but he just put 200 in, which one would you take? Right?
How does the bank feel about inspections?
Okay, so that's a very good question.
But John, that's not what the bank does. They'll take $1,000 finance offer over the good cash offer.
I know you have a lot of experience with this.
I had to say it.
Okay, it's okay. It's okay. Listen, nothing is a straight line, you know.
That scenario.
Aaron had a famous one where he had a crazy financed offer that was refused. It was $70,000 above everybody else. Why? The bank was afraid it wouldn't appraise, and it was based on a mortgage. So there's all kinds of things, and asset managers are not rational. We wish that they would act the same way every day. We had a big problem 2 weeks ago when we put out a property on MLS, and 2 days later we got an accepted offer. Never happens. Never happens. We're waiting 10 days after we have 20 offers in, and they still don't make an acceptance. And here they did that. And everybody thinks, well, you know, you did something. You pulled the wool over somebody's eyes. The offers went directly through a site to the seller, and the seller said accept. We had no control over that. But it doesn't look good, and it really wasn't the right thing for the asset manager to do. And 9 out of 10 times, it's never going to happen. So 9 out of 10 times, maybe 99 out of 100 times, it's not going to happen. But that 1 out of 100, there's all kinds of crazy things that happen. And people ask me, well, why did they do that? I have no explanation. It was not a rational decision. So there's a real, you have to put up with the animal that it is. We are not going to change the situation of how bank-owned properties get sold, how the asset managers manage their assets. All we can do is do the best we can. But one of the things is you can protect yourself by making sure that you prepare your buyer and prepare your offer as tight as it can be. Because in the end, that's going to win. Okay. When an offer is accepted, the buyer's name cannot be changed. Remember, we said there's got to be a straight line. Who made the offer, where the money is, where the pre-approval is. You know, you would think that these are rare exceptions, but I'm going to read at the end a list of things that went back on the market in the last couple of months. And you're going to be shocked at the stuff that, you know, people were trying to do to the bank, and it didn't make any sense at all. Okay. Contracts by the banks are slanted to favor the banks, much more than in a traditional listing. The bank wants you to give up all legal rights to any recourse for anything. If your buyer doesn't want that, if you have to explain to him, this is the way it's going to be, and you have to have a lawyer who does bank-owned properties. You cannot use your regular real estate attorney. They're going to look at the contract and they're going to have a heart attack, and they're going to call you and say, I'm never going to let you sign this contract. We had one this week. The lawyer is not going to change. I mean, it was really funny. Bill's not here right now, but he did a little thing at one of our sales meetings. I thought it was perfect. He had a buyer who was making an offer, and the lawyer was very raw and did not understand what he was dealing with. And Bill actually went to the lawyer's office to explain how REOs were. And he said, you see this contract here? You're reading it? Don't put a dot here to mark where you are. Don't touch the contract at all. As soon as you touch the contract, they're not going to accept it. So the guy actually got the point, and Bill got the deal. But most of the times you can't do that. Most of the times, if your buyer is not compliant, oh, I want to use my uncle, you know, good luck. It's not going to happen. The uncle's going to look at it and say, I don't understand this. Why are they making you sign this? that is what they make everybody sign. You're not getting anything different than anybody else, but you have to understand that's the way it is. And right from the beginning, it's much better to turn your buyer away from an REO back to traditional properties than go through all this aggravation. Because you know what happens when it doesn't work out? And they get the contract and they make changes and they send it back and they get rejected. Who do they blame? Yeah, you. Not the bank, not the asset manager,
Not the attorney.
not the listing agent, you. How hard is it to sell them something else at that point? Almost impossible, right? Don't do it. One of the things is we try to be nice. You know, we try to give people the benefit of the doubt. When you're dealing with REOs, you have to be firm. This is the way it is. And obviously, you're here today to learn what it is that it is so that you can prepare your buyer to say, okay, this is what it is. This is what you're going to be up against. Make sure you're able to deal with it. Okay, bank expects that the buyer has already done their due diligence, except in certain cases where there can be an inspection period after the contract is signed.
But not for the purpose of renegotiating, obviously.
Not for the purpose of renegotiating.
So-
Absolutely not.
So,
So we have two kinds of REOs in our inventory. The larger number actually are from a company called Resicap. And they're a company that's a servicer that actually goes out and fixes most of their properties and then puts them on the market. They're still REOs, but they are fixed up. Obviously, they're priced at a price where they expect somebody to see everything is working. The problem is from October to March, at least, all of them are winterized. You know, in the summer, some of them we let go, but their plumbers are so bad, we really should winterize everything all year round. So the fact is, what are you going to do? It is what it is. They will let you inspect after you sign the contract. Okay? Now, your terms of your deal have to say subject to a 5-day inspection period. Actually, most of these go on a site, ResNet, where it says, is there going to be an inspection period? You can't put 0 there if you want to inspect it after you get the contract. Now, you have to sign the contract and send it in with the money, and then you're able to ask our preservation department to get the seller to agree to turn on the water. When they do that, you have to use the bank's vendor to turn on the water, and then after inspection, turn the water back off, and that costs them $600. That's got to come out of your buyer's pocket. If they're not willing to do that, do not buy the property. The other thing, obviously, is with a renovation loan or cash, you don't need to do that inspection. You know, so.
what about somebody who wants to waive the inspection? Do they have a better chance of getting the property, or somebody wants
Great question.
Yes.
Remember, we can close with utilities off on a conventional loan.
Yeah, there are some products for some people that will work.
Regular Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac conventional loan, as long as they're not, FHA, we use utilities for that. Fannie, not a rental.
Right.
Conventional loan, no water, no heat, no electricity.
Right.
Signable home.
Cool.
waive the inspection versus somebody who wants?
Again, it's a mixed bag. How many other offers are there?
Right.
How many people have waived inspection? How much does the bank care? You know, in the larger picture, the asset manager takes the highest price,
Right.
even if it's not the best offer. There are offers that me as a listing agent would never take on my listing that they take every day. Okay? And more than 50% of them never go to closing. You know, because they're not solid deals. So I recommend that if you're dealing with somebody with an REO, that you convince them they need cash or a rental loan. To do conventional financing, even on a fixed up REO, is just inviting a big can of worms. I've never seen one go smoothly. NEVER. And you're delaying things by at least a month. Because to get the permissions and then to get the connection with the vendor and then get the job done and then get the inspector in, you got to get the appraiser in too at the same time, because you're not going to do it twice. So I don't see it. Okay, the bank usually expects a contract to be signed with a down payment within 5 business days. They usually don't give you more than that.
Sometimes 3 days.
What?
Sometimes 3 days.
Sometimes 3 days. Exactly. Exactly. Sometimes 3 days. And the point is, you should be ready. You should have had your buyer prepared to understand we've done our due diligence. We've made our good offer. When we get an accepted offer, you should be ready to go to your lawyers within 48 hours.
Do you
Yes,
have a list of REO-friendly attorneys? Because they will, like you said,
Yes.
They know the
I'll give you
language,
one.
they will fight
Yes.
you tooth and nail.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't have an REO experienced attorney, you shouldn't be using your regular guy. Does not make sense.
How fast after you get the contract should it be signed?
By the bank?
By us, by the buyer? How
Five
fast after you?
5 days.
They were hassling me after 1 day yesterday.
They asked you after 1 day?
1 day.
You have all the exceptions.
1 day.
No, but it's more of the time it's 3 days, like rushing. Like if you don't receive in 3 days that contract to the attorney, that's it, done deal.
Yeah, it depends on the asset manager. It depends on the time of the month. There's a lot of variables there, but you should make sure your buyer understands that ideally they're signing a contract within 48 hours of acceptance. That gives you a day or two. The attorney's on vacation for a week, get another attorney.
Yeah.
Not going to work.
Done.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes the assistant's better than the attorney, though. You sometimes?
Yeah.
Sometimes? Yeah.
Okay. So I love this question. People ask me all the time. I get a lot of the calls from outside agents who are looking to put offers on our properties. And the first question is, are there any offers on it? And I have to try to refrain from laughing because there are always offers on. The question is how many? Are there 4 or 40? That's the only question there is. And really, to me, I don't understand that question because what does it matter? Do you have a serious buyer that's going to make a serious offer? Put your offer in. See where it goes. This is the winding path here. You don't know where it's going to end up. Make your best offer first. Most transactions are multiple offer situations. Do not expect to counter. Do not presume that they're going to do highest and best. Just like this one last week, after 2 days, they took an offer. It was a good offer. It was way over asking. I understand that. But do not presume that you're going to get a second chance. So the dialogue with your buyer should be, Mr. Buyer, give me an offer that when tomorrow I tell you that somebody got that property for $5,000 more, you tell me that's okay. That's not worth it to me. I would not spend that much on that property. Do not come back to me tomorrow and say, oh, sure, I would have offered $5,000 more. You don't have the chance to do it. So you're trying to save $5,000 and you lose the property. It doesn't make any sense. In the long run, it makes no sense at all. And obviously, you have the investors who want all $300,000 houses for $220,000. I suggest that they're not worth your time. It does not make any sense. What I tell people is, it's not 2014 anymore. That's what you could do in 2014. You cannot do that now. It does not make any sense. Okay, a little trick with your offers. Do not end your offer in a 0 or a 5. Everybody does it. So 400, 410, 425, rather 401, 200, 426, 700. I can't tell you how many of those offers get accepted over the guy who put in 425.
Put in 425
Okay. Come on, give me another $1,000. 426.8. It sounds so much better. You understand it's a margin of $1,000 sometimes, just like Lisa said. And if you don't use everything in your power to get things done, it does not make any sense. So that's one little trick that'll work. Send in the complete offer. A lot of these offers have to go on portals. So ResNet, SPS REO, Accelerus. If you're going to do this regularly, just set up your accounts. So you have the account set up. When you need to make the offer, you don't have to go through the whole registration period. You cannot send an offer into our office department if the bank wants it through a portal. It does not work. It does not work. Do not bother the offers department with calls. Email them and CC me. The amount of volume of offers they have. On a Monday, they're dealing with over 200 offers on a Monday morning because they're closed from Friday at 5 o'clock till Monday at 9 o'clock. Every weekend, 200 offers easy. They couldn't possibly stop for every call. Email is what works for them. Email is the way the whole back office in the REO department works. Use it. If there's an issue beyond that, I'm CC'd in it, then you can call me and I can look into it. But not on a Monday morning. Forget it. Okay, one little note. Prop offers. All these sites are set up with real estate in the rest of the U.S. in mind. So you understand almost any place out of the Long Island metropolitan area, agents actually create contracts. Their sales agreements are contracts. The check is taken on the spot and signed, and the sales agreement is a contract. So there is a check. There is an EMD check. We don't do that. Until we get the contract to the lawyers, your buyer doesn't put a check. But a lot of the sites ask for a copy of the check. And I get 5 calls a week. What am I going to do? I don't have a check. Do I make up a check? No, do not make up a check. Put another copy of your down payment, bank statement, and on it write, we do not give checks until contract. It'll be fine. Nobody's ever lost an offer on prop offers by not putting a check in. And who's the check going to be made out to and how much? Does not make any sense at all. So do not do it. Okay. The last thing on my agenda before I take your questions is back on the markets. So 2 years ago, I would say if we had one deal a week fall out, that was a lot. Now we have one deal every business day fall out. Part of it is on the fault of the agent for not preparing their buyer and not having everything complete. Part of it is on the form of the bank, and they picked the wrong offer. They didn't look at there's going to be one that we're going to say, their offer was contingent on selling their house. They didn't see that? The bank didn't see that?
Not even good on a traditional.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever. The point is, do not be afraid to make an offer when there is an accepted offer. If you're doing an REO and you have an assignment, do not be afraid of doing an open house if there's an accepted offer. Chances are very good that that offer is not going to go through. So the way it works is the offers go in, depending on the number of offers, depending on the asset manager, depending on how the moon is, they accept an offer, okay? So they get that offer in, and they start working with it. And every other offer that comes in after that is considered a backup. It's not even, you'll register it on the site, but the bank will not look at it until the first offer falls out. But when the first offer falls out, the first thing the bank does is look at the backup offers. If you don't have your offer in line, it's too late for you to put your offer in. So don't hesitate to find out that it's back on the market. Oh, now I'm going to get my paperwork and get onto the portal and put it all in. Too late. The bank's not even going to end up looking at it. You understand, for most offers, there are 10 behind it. There's usually 2 or 3 good backups, and that's just the way it is. So be a backup. Be a backup. We have properties with 4 fallouts. 4 times. Contracts out, sometimes under contract, and still nothing. And the funny thing is, this is over a period of 3 or 4 months. Original list price was $670. The list price when the 4th fallout house is $575. You had a buyer that didn't think this was worth anything more than $570. Guess what? You win. Patience is very important with this. Any buyer that wants to be in this game needs to be patient with it, because patience wins out. If you have a solid offer at market value, do not worry about being beat. Somebody may beat you, but it's very unlikely they're going to close at that price. So be very careful about worrying about, oh, there's an accepted offer. I can't show it. I can't put an offer in. Do not do that. Under contract, they fall out. So it is very important to understand the pecking order there, and to understand you want to make that best offer there as you can. Okay, so let me take your questions. Yeah.
So in regard to that, you mentioned that some when they're under contract do fall out. Like, let's say 6 months go by and the under contract offer falls out, and you have a backup. Would it be worth it to then resubmit it because it's been so long and the bank doesn't know?
You have the backup.
Automatically, though.
Yeah. So it depends on how it gets submitted. If it gets submitted to the offers department, not through a portal, an email to the offers department restating that my offer is still there at this price with this down payment is enough. If it is not, if it is on the portal, you have to wait till the portal opens up, and you should resubmit the offer. You should resubmit it, absolutely.
With new proof of funds.
What?
With new proof of funds. Updated anyway.
Well, updated proof of funds, yes, very important. Proof of funds will have to be within the last 30 days. So if you put in an offer 2 months ago and it's a backup and now it's being considered, first thing you want to do is get to your buyer and get the updated proof of funds, because it's the first thing the bank's going to ask for.
Can you give an example of the best proof of funds? I mean, we get bank statements, we get letters. What would be?
Okay, so a bank statement with the person's name and address. We don't need the account number. That can be blocked out, and shows the average daily balance. That's the best proof of funds.
What about a financial advisor well in excess of $1 million?
Yeah.
I get that all the time.
I know. It is good enough, but it can lose out to a real bank statement. Again, it's a matter of what else is on the table. If you have $1 million in Chase Bank and you're making an offer of $350, right, and somebody else brings this letter, oh, he's got $1 million. Yeah. Where is it? I know rich people don't like to give up their stuff.
It always happens.
Yeah. Yeah, but they shouldn't be buying bank-owned properties. If they are, they're buying investors in their corporate name.
Regular deals, I guess.
Yeah. Well, on regular deals, it's a little bit different, because you can convince an owner that the person's credit worthy, whereas the bank don't care. I want to talk to the bank. For what? They don't care. Absolutely don't care. You're talking to the wall. That's what you're talking to. What other questions do we have? Any of our guests have questions? I answered all your questions?
Another one. You mentioned that even when the house has an accepted offer, we can do an open house. I called the other day for one, and they told me I couldn't do one on it. Is that something that they're changing?
Who told you you couldn't do it?
Linda said, I don't want to, put her under the
No, throw her under the bus, it's fine.
Linda's under the bus.
I guess depends.
No,
on
it
the
does not
offer.
depend.
She told me that they were trying to move away from that, because apparently agents complain.
No, I don't care.
Okay.
I could care less. The agent complains.
That's what they.
Well, have the contract signed by Saturday, there won't be any open house. It's as simple as that.
Actually, that's when I'm sorry, but I had an open house and I feel so bad because they hadn't accepted offer like day before. And I called him and said, no, cancel that. And he said, no, don't cancel. And I said, no, I don't want to do it. So finally I did the open house. The offer was accepted. I had like 20 people in the open house. And guess what? The offer fell off. So now I got a chance for the same people that I've been calling every day because they offer, I have to get back to the market. So
Did you
sometimes,
hey, put it in your own listing, though. If you got an offer accepted on
But
the
still, you know,
if you do the open house on Saturday, you should.
Yeah.
Some of your
No,
listings,
no,
Just take it in your
I
own
know.
listing. You absolutely should.
Yeah.
For that.
You're protecting the seller, you're not
no, I
protecting.
know.
Also
yeah.
prompt
I
the
know
buyer
the
to be
point,
more
but
expedient.
just
We're not hurting
don't-
anybody's feelings here. We're not worried about it.
Isn't it better?
they're not worried about hours.
What?
Isn't it a better use of time to do an open house?
No, because available and first accepted is the same thing.
Unless it's accepted by,
Sorry, those fall out too.
Some of your listings expire, right?
Yes.
Does that mean they're gonna be a little bit more negotiable next time around?
No, absolutely not. You know,
Just as a reasonable to our last.
you understand, we don't have regular listing agreements. We have master listing agreements, which covers, we have Resicap, which is our main, 60% of our REO inventory. We have in the contract the right to extend the listing for X number of days immediately after it expires. What we used to do is extend it before, and we decided it's best in the seller's interest to let it expire and then put it out as a new listing. So that's what we've been doing. But if you see it expire, don't stop. Probably ResNet is taking offers on it anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. One other question.
Sure.
I think he might be able to answer this. If you have a buyer and they have an LLC and they want to buy it with a mortgage in the LLC, isn't that an issue? Because the LLC, sometimes it can't be in the LLC's name, it's got to be in the person's name?
Yeah, Quentin.
That's going to depend bank by bank. Certain banks will allow you to do a jumbo loan, for example, or portfolio product in the name of the LLC. Fannie, Freddie will not. FHA obviously won't, because it's got to be primary residence.
Because I know sometimes trusts have that issue.
Yeah, well, that also depends on if it's a revocable or irrevocable trust. If you have an irrevocable trust, the banks want to stay away from that because of the irrevocability.
Okay.
And if it's an irrevocable trust,
So it's all situational.
You can find a bank that will do it, but not every bank will, and you should definitely check before. Better to do your homework before than after. Absolutely. Yes.
I have another question for you.
Excellent.
So, last meeting you mentioned that Resi we're going to stop renovating, and I'm just curious, is there a reason for that? Like, did they just realize, for some reason we're not getting the number we put out there?
Exactly. That's the
I wish
reason.
I could talk to them, because I feel like,
Yeah, we just got one the other day that was not, it's a Resicap, but it's not renovated. I think we're going to get a lot more of them. I think we'll end up at a point where maybe 50% of them won't be renovated.
so they are still going to renovate some of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's going to not be, it used to be 99%. I think eventually we'll get down to maybe around 50. I don't, it's very hard to predict where this whole REO business goes. We've been here 6 years plus. Every year there's a change. Every year there's a change. You have to be nimble. You cannot be solid. Oh, this is the way it was. What does that matter? It's not the way anymore. The bank owns the property. They can do what they want, when they want, and they can change their mind. I mean, the worst thing that happened to us was we had all these Resicaps, and Resicap used to give the selling broker 3%. Okay? One day they up and decide, nope, we're only giving 2.75%. Okay? So we go in and change all our listings to 2.75. But anybody who showed it before that at 3%, if they know MLS rules, know they're supposed to get paid 3%. We ended up shelling out money probably 8 times because they decided, oh, I'm not paying the 3% anymore. And we don't have a choice. You know, we have to do what they say. And if you insist on your rights, we're going to give you that extra 25%, 0.25. Yeah. Yeah, it changes. Do not expect it not to change. It always changes. Okay, any other questions before we go on to what the back on the markets were? Because this is sort of a summary of what I said today. And these are not long term ago. This is in the last 3 or 4 months, most of them since January. Back on the market, took too long to sign the contract. Shocking. Number 2, buyer wanted changes to the contract. Good luck. Property needs more work than the buyer anticipated. Wow. I can tell you that this is a renovation loan. They went in, they may said 50, their contractor went in after they got the accepted offer and said 90, no deal. Buyer took too long to provide attorney info. It should have been there when you made the offer. Buyer requests seller to reduce purchase price. Yeah, that's a funny one.
Property's located in fantasy land.
Yeah. Buyer wants to change financing and now refuses to get a rehab loan. You put your offer in and you said you're getting a rehab loan, the bank is going to hold you to it. Bank, you know, the buyer finds out they got to do some extra paperwork and it's going to cost them 1/8%. They say, no, I don't want to do it. Okay, house is not for you. Move on to the next person. You know, the bank doesn't care. There's another person right behind you. You know, we just had a crazy thing yesterday and we saved the deal in-house, but we told the buyer 6 times their lawyer can't change the contract. And their lawyer sends a signed contract back with changes to the writer. I tried one last time. I said to the agent, the bank is going to pull your deal. Make sure your buyer understands they are losing this because their lawyer won't let them sign the contract as is. An hour later, and I thought we had already killed the deal, he comes back, oh, they've agreed now. We were going through this for 5 days. Are you kidding me? Okay, let's not do it. Buyer asked to extend the closing date by 60 days. Yeah, that's a funny one. 2 days, 3 days, not on December 31st, though. If you're supposed to close by December 31st and you ask them to close on January 3rd, they kill the deal. Know why? Because asset managers are driven by statistics, and the year ends December 31st, and they had those deals in, and those deals have to close. So if you're unlucky to be closing around December 31st, make sure you close by December 28th. Take all thought to your buyer of ever closing on January 2nd or 3rd. It's not happening. Happy New Year.
What if the target date is January 2nd or January 3rd?
The closing date is January 2nd, no problem.
Okay.
No problem. But if the bank thinks, the bank is on or before. Okay. It's not on or about. So if on or before December 31st, you don't have a choice to close on January 2nd. Okay. The buyer was denied a mortgage due to a poor credit score. Do you think they put in a pre-approval? I think they put in a pre-qual. Buyer wanted utilities on for an all-cash deal. This is real stuff. These are deals that fell through in the last couple of months. Okay, issue with heat. The seller took too long to resolve the issue. This is very common on Resi-Cap properties. As I told you, the plumbing is not so good. There's always an issue. They take more than 2 or 3 weeks to resolve an issue. Do not lock in a rate when you have one of these deals because you're going to blow by that rate lock. You're reliant on the bank and their vendors. The problem with that company, they won't let us send our vendors in. For every other REO, the bank authorizes us to use our vendors. We pay the vendors, the bank pays us.
So in that example where you said the plumbing took too long, it's the buyer that's pulling out.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
On the ResCap ones that have been updated, if there is like sometimes you go in and you have damage after they did their beautiful, renovation.
Right.
You see water damage.
Right.
Will they work on price with a buyer if you?
It's a case-by-case basis, but if the damage happened after contract, the bank will make some restitution. Oh, Nick is not here. He sold a house, a car ran into it.
What? Now a 3-car garage.
Yeah.
What's the price? Who can get it?
Okay, but it closed this week.
But not every bank will do that. That's why I look 3
Right.
deals on one property.
I understand.
It didn't
Not
matter
every
what
bank will
happened.
do it. Okay. The buyer did not want to pay for the de-winterization and the re-winterization, and the buyer didn't close in time. So you see, those are all examples of the things I told you not to do. If you follow what I told you today, you have a much better chance to get things done. There's a lot of competition on these properties. Can't promise that it's going to work all the time, but you have a much better chance if you put in a solid deal with a prepared buyer, have the lawyer ready who understands REOs. End of story. Thanks for coming.